Good morning. Welcome to Masterplan 365. This is week 1 of month 10. Welcome, welcome. Give everybody a chance to join. If you're new, I'm Jane. I'm the CEO and founder of janesagenda.com. We build planners that actually work. And this is Masterplan 365, our training course on productivity and efficiency using a paper planner as your tool. You can find anything that I talk about today at janesagenda.com/masterplan. You can watch all the replays. Everything's available. All right, let's see. Good morning, good morning. Let me know you can hear me all right. This morning we're going to be talking about foundations of effective leadership. Here we are. Good morning, Stephanie Joy. Good morning, Tina. Hi, Lucia. Good morning. All right. Thank you. I don't normally wear it up at work. Just couldn't do it today. All right. Good morning. So, how was your weekend? Did you have a good weekend? How's your first week in January? This morning we're talking about leadership and team dynamics. It's going to be a good one. I've got an entire month planned on how to be a better leader, how to be a better teammate, how to work together in a team. Good morning, Safona. Hi, Marilyn. My weekend was very restful. I finished 2 books. I got to go grocery shopping. We watched Wicked. It was fun. All right. Good morning. So this month we're going to do a deep dive into the world of leadership and team dynamics. So whether you're leading in a business, at work, family life, understanding the core principles of leadership is going to help you become more effective and be a more confident leader. Now, what I've found is that leadership skills don't just apply to work, they apply to your whole life. You'd be surprised how often you have to use these skills. And so even if you're not currently in any kind of supervisory role, you're going to have something you can take away from this. But also, just because you're not in a supervisory role right now doesn't mean these tools won't sit in your toolbox till you need them some other day. Maybe you'll be in a different role. I feel like we should all get to take like December 15th to January 15th off, like as a government holiday. Who's with me, right? Somebody write a bill, because that would sure be lovely. It is not warm here, but it is definitely not snowy. We really need some snow. We're surrounded by pine trees, and we all freak out every year when there's not enough snow. It means that we're going to have a dry year, and that means forest fires. So we're not excited. We want the snow, but it's pretty chilly this morning. I had my big jacket on. Good morning. All right. So today we're going to be covering what makes a good leader, the different leadership styles, the role of emotional intelligence in leadership, and how you can start applying these principles today. See, Tanisha votes January 15th, right? I think that should be when we get December 15th to January 15th. I think it would be lovely. I know every year I could totally use a month off. All right, so the learning objectives today are to understand the core principles of leadership. We're going to explore different leadership styles. We're going to learn about emotional intelligence and its importance in leadership, and we're going to reflect on your personal leadership values and strengths. So let's talk about what makes a good leader. I have been a leader for as long as I can remember. I grew up in family businesses, and so even when I was little, I mean, I've been working in family businesses since I was 4 or 5. People kind of look at you as a leader when you're the boss's kid, right? So I've always kind of had to have that leadership hat on. And so sometimes I have to flip in the reverse and think what it's like to be an employee. And that was something that I had to learn many years ago in order to be a better leader. And so we're going to cover a little bit of both sides of it in this training. Right now, I have a team of 13. 14 if you count my husband, and we're constantly hiring and growing. And I've personally had teams directly under me of over 100 people, and so I've had to flex leadership styles because the way that you lead 4 or 5 people is completely different than the way that you lead 100 people. You have to be able to pull different tools out of your toolbox, different ways that we can do things. And so this is a topic that I feel pretty confident that we're gonna have some education here. All right, make sure I'm not missing any comments. Okay, wonderful. All right. So before we dive into specific leadership styles, I want to talk about what leadership truly is. At its core, leadership is the ability to influence and guide individuals or groups. That's it. You're influencing or guiding people. You're influencing or guiding them toward achieving a common goal. Now, at work, that's usually towards, being successful at work, but it might be towards projects. It might be towards different smaller things. It doesn't necessarily have to be just at work. Leadership isn't just about telling people what to do. It's about inspiring, motivating, empowering others to give their best towards shared vision. Oh, wonderful. We'll have to tell LaDonna happy birthday. Or is it, no, that's LaDonna's birthday. Okay, so January 15th. I got it, Safona. We're going to write that down. All right, so good leaders are more than just managers or taskmasters. They're role models who have a clear vision. They make decisions that benefit the team as a whole, and they foster an environment of trust and collaboration. Leadership can mean different things in different contexts. Some may say that leading a corporate team is being a leader, while some may say that you're guiding your community or your family. I think it all falls under that leadership hat. There are certain qualities that I think an effective leader needs to have. And so these are just a few key traits. What I like to do is I like to think about them in terms of different areas that I can personally grow my leadership muscles. So if I feel like I'm not performing my best as a leader, I try to identify which one of these traits I need to improve on and make plans towards education, towards coaching, so that I can be well-rounded. So that's something to think about. If you are a leader, if one of these areas feels like a struggle to you, that might be something to note down. First one is vision. Great leaders have a clear idea of where they're going. They have long-term goals and a sense of purpose. Nobody likes a leader that when you come and ask them for direction, they go, well, I don't know what we're supposed to do. Nobody likes that. So a good leader always has a vision of what they're supposed to be doing, where they're supposed to be going. The next one is integrity. Leaders with integrity earn the trust of their teams by being honest and ethical in their actions. You want your leader to be somebody who you can look up to, right? So a leader always has to act with integrity and lead by example. The third one is empathy. Empathy means that they understand the needs and emotions of their team members. This can help in providing a more supportive environment for the people that work with them. Empathy is a hard one for some people, especially when you don't come from the same walk of life as everybody on your team. And so that can be a struggle for people to put themselves in the shoes of their employees, even when they haven't lived that example. So I find this to be a challenge I enjoy. I enjoy stretching my empathy muscles and being able to care about things that otherwise wouldn't have come into my world. So I enjoy that aspect of it. The fourth one is adaptability. Good leaders can adjust to changing situations and handle these challenges with grace. So we change here at James Jenner. We're growing like crazy all the time. There's always something new. We're always having to shuffle people around into different roles. And so especially here, we find that adaptability is extremely necessary for a leader. You don't want, when something changes, pivots, shifts, if something doesn't go your way, you don't want the leader to have a panic attack. You want the leader to be able to flex and do what needs to be done. That's very important to me. The fifth one is decisiveness. And this is really hard for a lot of people. It comes from a place of confidence. Good leaders are able to make tough decisions, even in uncertain times. While considering the well-being of your group. I find that decisiveness, oof, I'm going to take another drink of my coffee and then we're going to try that one again. Decisiveness is the most challenging one to grow. It's what keeps people from really fulfilling a leadership role. And you can tell the difference between a leader that is maybe not doing so well and one that is rocking it, usually just by their decisiveness. It doesn't mean you always have the right answer. Okay. I make mistakes constantly. But what it means is that when you need to make a decision, you make a decision with confidence and you live with what happens afterwards. We will handle it, whatever comes, but we're going to do this now. That's decisiveness. And if that's something that you struggle with, practice, because I think it's a muscle that you can build. I think it's something that over time people can become better at making decisions with confidence. And so practice that if it's something that you struggle with. Because I know I certainly have gotten better about it over the years. You're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I've made some really dumb mistakes. And I still continue to make decisions and we just handle whatever happens, right? That's what being a leader is the confidence to live with those decisions and roll with the punches and continue to push forward. All right. One of the most important aspects of leadership is simply the ability to inspire others. Leaders don't just boss people around. They don't just say, go do this, go do that. They help people to want to do those things. You should want to do your job. You're going to get a better quality of work out of the people that work with you if they want to do the things they're doing. So good leaders help inspire and motivate their team to achieve more than whatever they thought was possible. I find that that's very important. If an employee doesn't want to do something, they're never going to do it fully. They're never going to do it all the way. And so you really do have to inspire them and help them understand why this thing is important. So very, very key trait. All right, so let's talk about different leadership styles. I did a little bit of research on this to make sure I was well-rounded for you for this lesson. And I thought it was interesting. I wonder if you can point out what leadership style you think I happen to have most, right? We all kind of pivot between different leadership styles, but there's one I lean towards most, and I wonder if you can pinpoint it. So let's talk about those. There's no one size fits all approach to leadership. You might have to be a different kind of leader for each employee that works with you or for each person that works on your team. You might have to pivot your leadership style, and that's totally normal. So all of these are tools you can have in your toolbox. You don't have to like totally conform to one type of leadership, okay? So Vicki, what's a good strategy to overcome being indecisive? So I would say practice making decisions. When someone asks you, just make a decision. If you normally default towards asking your team, asking for help, calling in a lifeline, practice following your gut. Use the information you have available to you and the way that it makes you feel and make a decision. And then what's going to happen is there's always going to be something that comes after that, right? That decision is going to cause a chain reaction of other things that you have to do. No matter what you do, no matter what decision you make, there's going to be something that comes after it. And once you start to see that you can handle all of the things that come after the decision, you'll start to build that confidence. So you just have to start practicing making decisions. Now, if this is something you are required to do in your role, like if you are a supervisor and you're supposed to be making decisions and you're struggling with it, whoever you're asking for advice, ask them to hold you accountable. Ask them to not give you the answer right away and to help you work through it on your own. There are new leaders on my team that struggle with this. And so my question for them, they'll come to me and they'll ask me, to make a decision for them. My answer will always be, well, how would you do it? What would you do? And that's something they can help you with. You can also ask yourself that question, right? If you feel the need to go and ask for help, what should I do? And I try to get them to come with ideas before I give them the answer. Usually what happens, which is really funny because it's about confidence, not about competency. They know how to do their jobs, but it's about confidence. So what happens is they give me the right answer when I ask that. When I ask, what would you do? They almost always have the right answer. And then I'm able to say, you're absolutely right, right? And then we start building their confidence. So hopefully that helps. All right. So the first one let's talk about is transformational leadership. Got it. Transformational leadership. Transformational leaders focus on inspiring and motivating their team by sharing a clear vision and encouraging innovation. So, like, think of Steve Jobs. His ability to inspire and lead Apple's team toward groundbreaking innovations is a perfect example. Somebody who inspires as their main leadership style. That's a transformational leader. Okay. We're motivating and inspiring. This is a good style to use when your team needs motivation or when the company is going through change or innovation. Recently, we put into place a new shipping program here at Jane's Agenda, something we had to use because we outgrew the standard shipping program. It's the one everybody uses, and we outgrew it, and that's a huge win for us. But boy, that hurt, the growing pains of having to learn an entirely new software, and we made some mistakes. But in the long run, it's going to be better for us. It's going to be better for the customers. We're going to be able to ship quicker. And so when the employees are getting frustrated because it's a learning curve and these things are difficult, the answer wasn't to pout with them and go, you're right, it absolutely sucks. The answer was, I know it sucks, but it's only going to suck for a little bit. It's all for the better. We're gonna push through this, and then we're going to have this great opportunity. And so you have to motivate when people are going through something challenging. And so that's a good opportunity to pull out transformational leadership style. The second type is transactional leadership. So this style focuses on structured tasks, rewards, and punishments. It's very black and white. You do this thing right, you get you get an atta girl. You do this thing wrong, and now you get discipline. Very, very simple. It's good for when you're dealing with straightforward tasks, short-term projects, where there's a clear chain of command, and you don't need a lot of motivation because they can just do the tasks. Military leaders often use this style. Clear rules, discipline, structure, right? Those things are critical in the military, and so they use this style a lot. There's nothing wrong with it. It just needs to be used appropriately. So do this task, and you did a good job. That's it. Transactional leadership, it relates to what you do is how you're treated. The third type is servant leadership. Servant leaders focus on serving the needs of their team before their own. They empower their team members and help them develop personally and professionally. An example here is Gandhi was a servant leader. He put the needs of his people first and empowered others to lead. This works well in environments where team morale and development are essential, like nonprofits or community organizations. I also find servant leadership is great in environments where maybe people are paid on the lower scale. When I worked retail before Jane's Agenda, I was an operational director for a major off-price retailer. And we started our employees at minimum wage, federal minimum wage, which was $7.25 an hour. You can't live on $7.25 an hour. And if you're getting paid $7.25 an hour, I am so sorry. And that particular environment I found was very useful to have a servant leadership style because you needed to keep the morale up at all times. And nobody wants to feel like their higher paid boss is taking advantage of them. And so if you work with a team that's on the lower end of the pay scale, then servant leadership might be a great technique to use. Let's see. I have difficulty sharing the leader role with my husband in our hobby shop. It's his hobby, it's my books. I don't want to tear our marriage apart, so I give in a lot. Oof, Misty, I don't know how you work with your husband. You know, I grew up in family businesses, and I worked side by side with my parents and I watched them fight. So my husband and I don't work well together in any kind of long-term situation, even putting together IKEA furniture. I think that should be a test. That should be a test for marriage. Can you put together an IKEA bookshelf together? We don't work well together. And so even though he owns a portion of Jane's Agenda, he takes a back step. So he's here when I need him, but he lets me run the show. I think it's really hard when you guys don't have a clear plan on who is actually in charge and who's not, and then you live that. I think it's really hard until you have that kind of agreement in place. So you guys might have to have that conversation and decide who picks what, right? Or who decides what. Have a real clear agreement, and then try to live that as best as you can. But family and work immediately give me trauma. So bless you. All right. Fourth type, autocratic leadership. This is where leaders make decisions independently without seeking any input from others. This is more directive, top-down style. This is really good in emergency situations, crisis environments, high-pressure environments, where leaders need to make quick, decisive calls, okay, where you don't have time to have a discussion. This style is very useful in those high-stress situations, whenever you need to make a decision quickly. So autocratic leadership, very important. But it has its place, right? Because you can imagine if you're doing this without the need, what that would make the team feel like. In a high-stress situation, everyone's going to worship the person who can make a quick decision. But as soon as that stress calms down, it's no longer admirable. So that's something to keep in mind. It's a good tool to have in your toolbox, but I maybe wouldn't do that all the time. All right, democratic leadership. Democratic leaders seek input and feedback from their team before making decisions. It encourages collaboration and gives everyone a voice. Google is known for encouraging input from all employees, helping foster creativity and innovation. This is great for teams that benefit from diverse perspectives, where creativity and innovation are key. Right? You kind of work as a team and then make a final decision. The challenge there is if you decide to use democratic leadership, if the bulk of your team has one opinion and you choose to go another way, that can cause morale issues. And so with the democratic leadership style, you really have to commit to going with what the team says, or risk hurting the morale. Okay. All right, so each of these styles has its own strengths and weaknesses, we talked about. Effective leaders often switch between styles depending on the situation. What's important is knowing when and how to use each of these styles. As you can tell, there are different times you put on a different leadership style hat, and you have to be that leader because maybe there's a crisis at work today, and then tomorrow morale's down, right? And so you need to go from autocratic to servant leadership. I typically, Misty. Oh, well, if you want to talk more through it, we can, but yeah, you guys are going to have to make a decision on who's actually in charge, at least in what area, if not as a whole. I'm the boss, even when my husband's in the building, and he knows this. My name's on the company, right? So it makes it way easier. It doesn't mean we don't bicker from time to time, and we've had our issues over the years, but it definitely makes it easier to understand whose business it is. And so like he'll come and help me with things, but he does it my way, so just like an employee would, and it keeps things happy at home. All right. I typically lean towards servant leadership as my default, and then transformational leadership when necessary. Those are my two key. I have frequently gone into other modes. In the middle of a crisis, I will totally put that autocratic hat and just make all the decisions. I'm really, really good at it, but it doesn't feel good unless you have to use it. So that's where I fall. All right, so let's talk about emotional intelligence and leadership. Now, we did talk about emotional intelligence in a previous master plan session, but this is a little different when you talk about it in leadership because you have people depending on you. Leadership isn't just about skills and styles. emotional intelligence is important. Studies show that leaders with a high emotional intelligence are more effective because they can manage their own emotions and understand and influence the emotions of others. When you have a teammate that comes to you just a complete wreck, um, the right answer wouldn't be to get angry about it, right? You would have to, no matter what it's doing to you on the inside, you have to control your emotions and be self aware and be the leader that that person needs at that moment to become their best self. So, very, very important to me. Um, there are four key components to understanding this emotional intelligence. The first one is self awareness, knowing your own emotions and how they affect your behavior. So if I'm having a day, one of those days where you're just in a grumpy mood, I turn into a Grumposaurus Rex, and right, some days you're just not feeling it. The answer there would be to seclude myself or to so that I don't affect anyone else's emotions, or to ideally pull myself out of that mood. Um, these emotions can very clearly affect other people. Nobody likes to work with a Grumposaurus Rex, right? So being self-aware of how you're feeling so that you can control your behavior is step one. Step two is self-regulation. That's being able to control your emotional responses. So if somebody comes at you yelling, let's say you have a teammate that's angry, and they come at you yelling, and they're obviously in a feisty mood today. You don't get to go be feisty back, right? Just because somebody is upset doesn't mean we get to be upset too. That's not the right answer, and it's definitely not going to make things better. So we have to use self-regulation. The third one is empathy. Like I said, empathy is a struggle because if you have a large, diverse team, you may have people from all walks of life, different cultures, different religions, and it's important to flex for that. So when I was very young, I had an employee that I worked with. He was not my direct report, who needed a certain day off for religious purposes. Um, I had never heard of this holiday. I'm not going to go into specifics, but I'd never heard of this holiday. And so um, he was upset that we didn't automatically pay for him to take that day off. But this is a holiday that 95% of the United States does not celebrate. And so the company itself, not my company, did not pay for it to be off. And so even though I had never even heard of this holiday, I had to show empathy and explain and be understanding to this employee who I couldn't give this paid holiday off. And so that was an opportunity for me to practice empathy with a diverse team. And you may be surprised when you need that skill. The fourth one is social skills, the ability to build relationships and manage social networks effectively. There's definitely a muscle there when it comes to understanding social dynamics. There's a balance between being completely unfriendly and going out for drinks with everybody. All right, there's a balance in between there somewhere that we all have to find so that we can enjoy working together, but we still maintain that level of respect at work. And so I think that's very important as far as emotional intelligence, is understanding where to draw the line and how to be respectful when you do. All right, so leaders with a high emotional intelligence build stronger relationships with their teams. They navigate conflicts with greater ease. They motivate and inspire others by being attuned to their needs and feelings. Emotional intelligence helps leaders create an environment of trust where team members feel valued, they feel understood. And this boosts productivity because when the boss cares about you, you're more likely to care about the boss. Okay. This leads to overall team satisfaction. All right. So I want you to think about the areas that we've talked about today. I have a little bit more to give you, but I want you to think about the areas we've talked today. If there's something that you feel like you could use some more training, some more experience in, I urge you to seek that out yourself. Whenever we talk about things like that here, if emotional intelligence is something you really want to work on, There are tons of books and courses and things you can take on how to be more emotionally intelligent. If there's a certain type of leadership style that really struck out to you that you're like, I really want to be that kind of leader, or I need that skill in my toolbox, then seek out books and training on that particular leadership style. Your education on these topics doesn't have to stop with me. Okay, we only have so much time together to be able to do this. So let's talk about your leadership values. I really liked, LaDonna, I really liked Lean In. That was really good. That's Sheryl Sandberg. Let's see, what else? I'm looking at my bookshelf because I have 800 books up here that I've read. She Builds was really good. That was not necessarily a leadership book, but it's definitely a business book that I really liked. And the author was really nice. She and I talked briefly on Instagram. I really enjoyed She Builds. I'm looking at other ones up there that I really enjoyed. I've got a bunch of photographs covering my book, so that makes it difficult. I'm looking at the top of the book trying to figure out what books I've got. I'll have to get you a list. But those for sure, those were really inspirational because finding books written from the female perspective in business is really challenging. Most business books are written by men, and as much as we love men, they don't have the same perspective. It's a little different. And so I highly recommend She Builds. That one was one of the first books that I read that really seemed to understand the woman's perspective in business. There's a few others, but they come from a more negative standpoint, and so I wasn't a huge fan of those. There's one that's nice. I think it's like Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. It felt very negative to me. Like you have to change your feminine energy in order to succeed in business, and I don't think that's necessarily accurate. So I read a lot. I have a lot of books, but as far as remembering names, not a skill of mine. So if I can find them, I'll give you a list, and I'll put it in the Facebook chat or something so you can find it. Okay. All right. So let's talk about your leadership values, not my leadership values, yours. Leadership starts with understanding yourself. I want you to take a moment and reflect on your current leadership strengths and areas where you want to grow. And I have some reflection questions for you that you can kind of think about. What leadership qualities do you possess? Do you already possess? What leadership qualities do you already possess? Even if you're not a leader per se, if you don't have a team working for you, you probably have leadership qualities. I always say that if I'm not in charge, I am anyway, because I naturally kind of just take over things. This can be a positive and it can be a negative, right? Because when other people are designated as the leader, I really struggle with that because my natural, the way that I was born and who I am, it's in my star chart. And all of my personality tests is that I like to be in charge. And so for me, I have to remember to rein that in and let other people make decisions. And I found that can be really useful in leadership. Once I started realizing that was a challenge as well, not just a strength, but a challenge. I have leaders that work for me now. I have people underneath me that run teams. I don't personally boss every employee around. Like I have people that run the show, and they need to be able to make decisions and plans and things, and I need to be comfortable with that. And so that's really difficult for me, and it's something that I've had to learn to be okay with and to grow myself. So I have a lot of leadership qualities, but there are some that I need to work on. Which leadership style resonates most with you, right? Are you a servant leader? Are you a transactional leader? Are you a transformational leader? Hopefully you're not an autocratic leader as default, because that means you're probably working a really stressful job or you're having a really hard time. Are you a democratic leader? How can you use emotional intelligence to better connect with your team? Okay. Is there something that you could do better, right? Maybe listen more, maybe try hard not to be judgmental, try to understand where they're coming from, maybe learn more about your teammates so that you can give them that empathy that they need. What kind of leader do you aspire to be? Now, this doesn't have to be a single word answer. This could be a multi-page answer if you really want it to, but I think it's important, just like any other goal that we set, we need to map out where we want to go so that we know how to get there. So if you wanted to, you could do this in a journal entry of picturing the kind of leader that you would you would like to be, that you would like people to see you as. Um, your personal leadership values are what guides your actions and your decisions. I want you to take a few minutes after this session. I want you to write down your own values and your vision as a leader while it's still fresh in your brain. This will serve as your guiding compass so that you know where you want to develop your leadership skills over time. Okay? We have so many comments. All right. How to Lead When You're Not in Charge is a good book. The one that I'm working I have a couple that I'm working my way through right now as far as business books go. The Gap and the Gain, I'm really struggling with, but I keep getting recommended it, so I'm trying to go through it. And then this one's the one I'm carrying with me, Measure What Matters. So that's my current one. It's talking about leadership from a numbers standpoint. So that was really, so far it's really good. I haven't gotten very far yet, but it's very good. All right. Tina, it's so hard to take a step back when one is always in charge. Yeah. Well, and because I have never had strong leaders under me where I can step back and not make all the decisions, it's also just practice over time. I'm not saying I'm terrible at it. It's just something I struggle with. I'm sure my team would tell you that I like being in charge, which is good because I'm CEO, but there are times when that can be uncomfortable. And so I do practice trying not to steamroll everybody. I feel like I'm always in charge, even though I don't have a leadership role. No, oh, always not in charge? I don't understand that one, Vicki. Help me understand so I can help. I need to learn more about my teammates. Okay. Yeah, Safona, for a little bit, I will keep notes on new employees. Just because they told me something doesn't mean I'll remember it. I'm really busy and I have a lot floating around in my head, and I'm also kind of a space cadet. And so I'll keep notes on newer team members until I get to know them and it starts to click. When they tell me something like, that they have pets or grandchildren or whatever, and I'll go back and reference it before I work with them. And so I want them to feel valued and important. But also I'm busy, and so we work with it together. It's things like that that help. I do that actually when I'm in a new group too, like when I join a new mastermind group or business-based group, I'll keep notes on the people that I meet. And something about the act of writing stuff down helps you remember better. And so sometimes I'll never have to reference it again, but because I wrote it down, I remember it. And so if that helps, you can do that as well. Home is another job where we as managers rarely get a day off. Oh, Tanisha, I hope someone's giving you some time off. I don't know that your personal situation, but when I was home for a brief stunt before I started working outside of the home again, because I started Jane's Agenda in my home, and so there were a couple years there where I didn't have a warehouse or an office to go to, and I worked from home every day. I sent my kids off to daycare to get a break. They had fun, they played with friends, and I was able to do that intermittently. So maybe there's a place you can do that where you can send them as you need to and not necessarily on a regular basis. Something where you can just send them to. I don't know. All right, Felicia. The leadership styles should I'm going to double check for you. They should be in the blog today. Let me double check real quick. They should be listed in there. This is month 10, week 1. Yes, all the leadership styles are listed in the blog today. So that's going to be at janesagenda.com/masterplan. This week's lesson will be linked shortly after I'm done. You can watch the replay there. It's all listed out in the blog. All right. Understanding each person is so important. Everyone is so different from each other, and different approaches are important to identify. And we can only understand from our perspective thoroughly, right? So, and just because someone even has a similar life to yours doesn't mean they had the same experience. And so it's important that we're understanding different races, different cultures, different religions, different upbringings. They all matter. So I agree. I carve out time, especially when it's time for vacation. I am getting to learn to love vacations. Okay. All right. So if you liked this content today, if you had fun learning some about leadership, please like the video. Next week, we are going to be talking about how to build and motivate your team. And so if that's something you need help with, we're going to talk about different team dynamics and how to get your team engaged and motivated. And so that's what we'll do next week. Let's see. Today is January 6th. And so, yes, next master plan will be January 13th at 8 a.m. I am going to be going live Wednesday in the subscription only group. And then Thursday again, I'll be going live on Thursday. I'm going to give you a tour of my planner. And so I know you'll really like that. So make sure you join us. If you haven't already added the calendar to your digital calendar, you can find that button at janesagenda.com/masterplan. I have been making sure it's updated. It's got all sorts of stuff on there. So go make sure you add that calendar. It helps keep things up to date because as I change things, as chaos happens, I reschedule it on the calendar whenever possible so that you guys have the update as well. All right, thank you, everybody. Make sure you tap that subscribe button if you're not subscribed, and the bell icon if you want to be notified. Otherwise, I will see you later this week. Thank you, everybody.